This is War Cry. We're on the wall crying out for our children, our communities, our schools, our churches, our families. This is War Cry. Welcome to our reality. Gun violence, Chicago, Philly, Detroit, New York, Atlanta, just to name a few. Our black children are dying day by day. This is War Cry. Police brutality. Hands up! Don't move. I can't breathe. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag All Lives Matter to Christ. This is War Cry. Drugs, rape, mass shootings, school violence. This is War Cry. Galvanizing people to pray for our children and to take action. Let's march on Washington. We want prayer back in school. This is War Cry. Cameras, memorials in every corner in our neighborhood. Who died this weekend? Oh no, not Miss Martha's grandson. This is War Cry. He was only 16. His brother died last year. He was only 13. This is War Cry. We the people. We're the elected officials. This is War Cry. We need the church. Where's the church? Only on Sundays. Get to the streets, church. We need you out there. This is War Cry. Girl, be gone. Boy, be gone. Mothers crying. Fathers being locked up. Welcome to our reality. Identity crisis. This is War Cry. Oh, they're trying to remove our history off the textbook. Oh, critical race theory? It makes them feel bad. It's our reality. Fake reality shows. We want the real truth. Stay woke. This is War Cry. HBCUs under attack. This is War Cry. Equal pay for what we do. We want a reparation. This is War Cry. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Wait a minute. Is that somebody else they're burying that looks like us? Only 12. This is War Cry. Oh, let us come together and pray for our young people, pray for our communities, pray for our schools, pray for our churches, pray that the government gives us what we need, a fair opportunity. This is War Cry, home of the land, home of the brave, land of the free. Who's free? Our men are locked up. This is War Cry. Hashtag mothers against gang violence. Hashtag fathers who love their sons. Hashtag what would Jesus do? This is War Cry.
I know who goes before me. I know who stays behind. The God of Israel's army is always by my side.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use, for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. No copyright infringement intended. All rights belong to their respective owners.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is War Cry. This really is a war cry today because this is June the 19th, Juneteenth. So we should really have a war cry that we're going to let out. This is war cry for our children. Our children are dying by the masses. They're just shooting. As you know, it was a Juneteenth celebration in Chicago, and 20 of our young people were shot. One killed. Somebody asked me, well, why would they carry a gun to a celebration? Well, you know how our children are. And that's why we always have to pray. This is war cry for our communities, war cry for our schools, war cry for our churches. The church needs to get involved with our children's life and with the affairs of the community. You know, the church was always supposed to play a position in government just not in politics. And that's where we get it wrong. And this is War Cry, and we want to tell you, welcome to our Juneteenth celebration. And we're going to talk a little bit about Juneteenth. Juneteenth was really made a federal law back in June 2021. All that time we still have been celebrating, but it wasn't a federal holiday. Now, not all states really celebrate Juneteenth, even though Juneteenth is a federal holiday. And I guess if I give you guys a trivia question to say, what is one state that does not celebrate Juneteenth? Oh, we're going to see. Bring in the guests. Engineer, bring in all the guests today, because I'm going to ask that question just to see if they have one idea or if we all get it right. Okay. Who do we have today? You listen. What is one state would you say that don't celebrate Juneteenth?
You know, I was listening to the question and I was stumped, actually. I don't know.
Okay, Dr. Gregory Johnson.
I'm thinking, I don't know which one.
Well, guess what? You all lose. Florida.
I'm not surprised.
You know, Florida, along with several other states, do not celebrate Juneteenth. Even though it's a federal holiday, the state does not choose to celebrate it. Now, in New York City, we celebrate Juneteenth. The governmental offices are closed. It's a federal holiday. Some people get paid for it. I don't think a lot of the private companies do, but it's on the calendar. We only really have two Black holidays. That's Martin Luther King and now Juneteenth. So we should all galvanize ourselves to celebrate Juneteenth together. Okay, engineer, let's go to the first video about Juneteenth.
That on the first day of January, in the year of our Lord, 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free. And by virtue of the power and for the purpose aforesaid, I do order and declare that all persons held as slaves within said designated states and parts of states are henceforward shall be free. And that the executive government of the United States, including the military, naval authorities, therefore will recognize and maintain freedom of said persons. And I hereby enjoin upon the people so declared to be free to abstain from all violence unless in necessary self-defense. And I recommend to them that in all cases, when allowed, they labor faithfully for reasonable wages. And upon this act, sincerely believed to be an act of justice, warranted by the Constitution, upon military necessity, I invoke the considerate judgment of mankind and the gracious favor of Almighty God, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States to be affixed.
Wow, that's Juneteenth. I see we got
Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth. I see we got Bishop David Butler with us. What do you think about that, what you heard about Juneteenth? Just introduce yourself, and what do you think about that? Who are you, and where are you from?
I'm Bishop David Butler. I serve as the Bishop of Christ for the World International Fellowship in the New York area. And when you asked the question, I thought about two states. I thought about Texas and Florida that would not celebrate the day. And of course, it was just a piece of paper because they did not give any restoration or restitution to any of the enslaved, not slaves, the enslaved black people. They had no place to go, no money to go there. And so they were stuck on the plantations and they became sharecroppers. And every year, the slave masters, the former slave masters, would always make sure that the enslaved blacks, now sharecroppers, never paid their debts. So they were still stuck to the plantations, except they were, quote unquote, supposedly free.
Is it important for us to celebrate this day, Bishop David Butler? Is it important?
It's important that we learn how to celebrate ourselves, and this day is part of that. That even though there was not really true emancipation, it was a step towards our emancipation. Even though we became sharecroppers with no income, no, profits, I should say, in the system of this capitalistic system, it was a step in the right direction, and therefore we should celebrate it.
Doctor, I'm gonna call you Dr. Ulysses Slaughter. You know what? I met this brother. This is a bad brother. I want to stay connected with him all the time. Ulysses, come in. What do you think about it? It's important. What you think about Juneteenth? Introduce yourself. And is it important we celebrate it? Tell them who you are.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I think it's important to deliberate Juneteenth. Celebrating it is one thing, deliberating around it is another. And I think all conversations, all holidays, we need to deliberate around them. I mean, what are they? What do they mean? Juneteenth, I've been celebrating or observing Juneteenth since about 1993. And I remember the tension around what it meant to celebrate liberation or celebrate the writing of liberation. Somebody gives you, as someone said, a piece of paper and they say that you're free. And I think as Frederick Douglass and many other people have said, you can't give anybody power. People have to take power. And people were constantly taking power and continue to try to take power from us. But this is a day where we can certainly deliberate around what it means to exercise our self-defined freedom as opposed to how somebody else wants to define freedom for us.
Excellent. Now tell us a little bit of something about you. Introduce yourself to our listeners of War Cry.
Again, thank you for having me. My name is Ulysses Butch Slaughter. I do most of my work in the Philadelphia area. I've been doing my work in the Philadelphia area since about 1990. I'm a writer, I'm a film director, and I'm a father. So I always love when programs include children in the focus. And one of the things that I'm working on right now, one of my priority tasks is to have a courthouse outside of the Philadelphia area. There's a courthouse that we are working to have changed, the name changed to reflect a boy who was falsely accused and executed back in 1931. His name was Alexander McClay Williams. And he was falsely executed. He was falsely accused and executed back in 1931. And then he was exonerated in June of 2022. And going to the point again of celebration versus deliberation, there were a lot of people that were celebrating the fact that he had been exonerated 91 years after he was executed. And I didn't see any reason to celebrate because he was already free. When they killed that boy back in 1931, he was already free. And so what we're pushing for is to have his name placed on a courthouse that currently bears the name of the judge who sentenced him to death. We want that name removed. Wow. And we want Alexander's name put on that building. And we are doing a really good job right now of pushing that and coming very close to making that happen. It would be the first time in these United States where a courthouse bears the name of a Black boy.
Wow.
I just want to mention one other thing, that I worked on the MOVE bombing. Many people may be familiar with the MOVE bombing of 1985. I wrote the official apology for the MOVE bombing back in 2020 and worked with the Africa family, former Mayor Wilson Good, and a number of other people to get an apology done for the MOVE bombing. And so my work revolves around ensuring that that optimal justice is done, and continuing to fight to make sure that people can see things that they can deliberate about.
Amen. Amen. And we're going to get back to you because we do have that video and we want to show it. And you listen, we want you to actually go in and tell us a little bit more about that. Dr. Gregory Johnson, introduce yourself. And what does Juneteenth mean to you? And do you think we should celebrate it? And any other comments?
Well, my name is Dr. Greg Johnson. I'm a retired clinical therapist, and I'm a theologist, and I'm happy to be here today on this important date because it is significant to me, because it reminds me a day of suffering that has come to pass to finally be celebrated. We have nothing to be ashamed of. We earned this. We are due this, and it is way overdue. And when I think about what the young man was just talking about, the courthouse that he's working toward getting, I agree with the brother on that, because it reminds me of a young man, a little younger than this fellow, 1920, Ennis George. He was electrocuted at the age of 12 years old in the state of South Carolina for a crime he never committed, and they knew he never committed it. And he was so small that they had to put pillows underneath him in an electric chair just so he could fit in the chair. A young black boy, which shows you the cruelty of what young black boys went through then, and nobody cared.
Absolutely. Now I want to ask another question. Ulysses, you first, and then Bishop, and then Dr. Johnson. Do you think that this celebration of Juneteenth will bring our generation Z in to understand fully, a little bit, I guess not fully, but better what their heritage is, and to give them a sense of ownership and pride, and being proud of us as African American descendants all the way down? You first, Ulysses.
I don't think in and of itself, it by itself is going to do it won't make a significant change. There really has to be some real strong, continuous day-to-day deliberation around this idea of liberation and what does it mean to be free. I think that a lot of the times we will have a holiday and all kinds of other distractions become part of the holiday and not the focus of the actual holiday. The same thing goes for Dr. King. We get focused on all kinds of things other than what this man stood for, and really do some deep diving into who he was and how he contributed to the world. And so when we think about Juneteenth, I think there's an opportunity not just for Gen Z, because I think a big part of the challenges with every generation, one of my favorite quotes comes from Frantz Fanon, where he said, every generation must, out of relative obscurity, define, fulfill, or betray its mission. And I think there have been generations before Generation Z that have not done the best job of passing down information to the succeeding generations. And therefore, they don't have a foundation of understanding for what it is that they're supposed to be doing. And so what we have to be able to do is better explain how day-to-day interactions and transactions give us liberation or continue to make us enslaved. And so, yeah, there's an opportunity, but I don't think in and of itself, the day is going to make much of a difference. We need to use the day as just a guidepost to how we treat the other 364 days in a year.
Okay, Bishop Butler.
Yes, I want to first of all say I'm very proud that one of our pastors in Christ for the World International Fellowship is the state chairperson of the Juneteenth holiday. That's Pastor Wilma Newton. I spoke to her last night. And so I thank God for the efforts there in Oklahoma. I would also say that it is up to us, our generation, to educate all generations. And that's what we tried to do Sunday. Sunday, we not only mention the day, but we also explain the significance of the day. I'm on my way right now to do a celebration where I'll be singing and playing spirituals at a celebration in Massapequa Park, Long Island. So it's what we do with it that makes it count. If we just let it happen, then it'll eventually die. But if we re-educate, promulgate, indoctrinate, and utilize the day, then other people will have to respect us. But if we just allow the day to happen, be a day of shopping, a day of just staying home and doing nothing, then we have wasted an opportunity. And that's the problem. Many times we don't celebrate our own victories, even if though they may not be total. May not have won the war, but at least we've won a battle. And so it's up to us to make it work.
Okay, Dr. Johnson, I want you to step right in.
Well, one thing we got to remember about Juneteenth in regards to how it was established, you must remember it was 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation that Juneteenth was established. And we got to remember, Abraham Lincoln didn't really do us no favors, because if it was a way that he could have won the Civil War without freeing the slaves, he would have done it. But this was really an appeasement, and we must remember the truth about it. A lot of people don't realize that this was far-fetched, and it was entrenched within America to keep us in a submissive state. We had to fight even when we didn't know we were fighting. We had to be free even though we didn't even understand what freedom was all about. So we've come a long way, a long way.
I agree with you, Dr. Johnson, and all the other hosts. But I think that this is a great opportunity to start a conversation with our young people. It appears that our young people are very engaged in the holiday, along with everyone else. And whereas they're trying to remove our history books from off the shelf, this starts a major worldwide conversation. And as the Jews do, the Jews gather their families around and they go through what we call oral translations. They sit down, they talk to their children about their history. We too should go into a storytelling mode to tell our children, not just in the church, but outside of the church. Everybody got there was millions of t-shirts sold. Everybody got a t-shirt, everybody walking around, but do you really know what went into making that t-shirt, making it possible for you to wear that t-shirt, or are you just wearing it because it's a fashion statement? So we really need to have the conversation way before Juneteenth, because it has to be a change in the way we think. And maybe through all of that, we can start looking at ourselves differently. I'm back at you, Ulysses. What do you have to say about that?
I agree. I think that this is a 365-degree, 24-hour-a-day effort. And it's like celebrating a birthday. The birthday is one day a year, and then you live your life 364 days after that. And there has to be continuity with these celebrations and observations. They have to be a point of reflection so that we can go forward. We use the term Sankofa, which means to look back in order to go forward. Look back at where you came from and what you had to carry that egg forward into the future. And Juneteenth is only as good as we make it. It should not be allowed, as so many other holidays have been allowed, to become another economic driver for businesses. It's not the worst thing to have an economic driver, but if it's only about wearing a t-shirt and not living the truths of Juneteenth or whatever the holiday is every day, then it serves no purpose. And so it has to be a daily thing. Juneteenth has to be a daily thing for us of how do we get liberation done every day and not just on June the 19th.
Absolutely. Liberation in our life that takes place every day. things happening, strongholds being broken. This is War Cry, and we are not politically correct, but we are Christ correct. And we're going to answer the hard question. Bishop Butler, do you think we should celebrate Juneteenth and the 4th of July? Or do you think we should give up the 4th of July? What do you think about that?
Well, let's just put it like this. This country has a history of deception, destruction, and when they speak of independence, they were speaking of a particular group of people who became independent from another group of people that they were related to. It has nothing to do with us. We were deceived into believing that it was for us, and some of us, like Crispus Attucks, gave his life for this nation, not realizing that he wasn't fighting for his own independence, but he was fighting for the independence of others. And all the wars that we have fought has been similar. We have been fighting for other folk, but have failed, not altogether, but in a large measure, failed to fight for ourselves.
Okay, Dr. Gregory Johnson. So, with all that was said, do you think reparation is due to us, like it was given to the Indians, like it was given to the Jews? What's your feeling on that?
Reparation is so overdue, it's almost embarrassing. If any group of people deserves reparation, it is the black slaves and the descendants of those black slaves that are living today. We have suffered and we have plundered and we have bled, we have cried, we have prayed, we have begged. When you look at the truth of the matter, I look at Juneteenth should not just be celebrated today. Juneteenth needs to be celebrated every day. For us, Juneteenth is every day. Just like critical race theory. They can stop critical race theory from the educational level. They can stop Juneteenth even from the state level, like the state of Florida has done that. But you know something? Nobody can stop us from what we teach our children at home. See, ain't nobody can tell you what you could say. Let us get educated. Let the parents get educated. Let the parents find out, what does Juneteenth all about? What is critical race theory all about? You teach your children. The Jewish people teach their children every day of the year about the Holocaust. They will never let anyone forget about what the Holocaust was all about. And that's how we ought to look at Juneteenth. We should tell our young people what slavery was all about, what slavery did to our people, how slavery broke up our families, what slavery did to us psychologically and sociologically, how it damaged us spiritually in certain places. So, as far as I'm concerned, Juneteenth is every day.
Now we have a question, and I'm going to direct it to you, Yusuf. The question is, Black people sometimes come off as a lost cause. Do you think we can ever be invested in freedom and independence? At you, Ulysses. That's the question.
Yeah, I see that point, and I would agree with that sometimes it come off as a lost cause. When I think about vision, and again, this show is called War Cry for Our Children, I think about what we are supposed to be investing for the future, what we are supposed to be doing now to model what it means to hold power for the future. Elder John Henry Clark, ancestor now, John Henry Clark, used to talk about how important it was for us to teach people how to hold power. And power is not something, again, that you ask for, something that you take. And I think that we need to learn how to come up with a vision, go in a direction that serves us. I love what the brother said earlier about the whole war thing. We have fought in so many wars, World War II, Civil War, you name the war we fought in, and we've always fought to the benefit of other people. We need to fight for the benefit of ourselves. We need to know what that benefit is going to be. And so we can have power. We just need to make some real strong decisions that we are fighting for ourselves.
Bishop Butler, we have another question from our listeners. Black people are only interested in inclusion, not freedom, not black power. How would you answer that question or address that to our listener? Black people are only interested in being in inclusion, not freedom and not black power. They're only interested in what they can get for themselves. Inclusion. What do you think about that, Bishop Butler? What would you say to that question?
I listened to this broadcast on Sunday morning, and JBS, I think, Jewish something. And one of the things that they posed was the inclusivity in an exclusive group of people. In other words, they maintain their exclusivity at the same time they are dealing with the dilemma of how to include. And we might be the opposite. We've been inclusive, but we need to learn how to be exclusive. In other words, we have to protect some things. When I was a black nationalist prior to being born again, um, we talked about color, culture, and consciousness. So there's some things that we've got to establish and protect in our culture and our consciousness that is so vital. So yes, we have been how would you say, dominated and indoctrinated to always be inclusive, and we are frightened even to call on the name white. We'll say those people or those others or whatever. We are afraid. We live in a state of fear and a state of a dilemma of unstableness or instability. But we have to recognize that assimilation for those in this country may be a minority, may not be the best thing for us. If we're going to protect our identity, our culture, and our consciousness, there has to be a level of exclusivity where we don't share all our secrets, where we don't let you into our village at all times. So we have lost our safety. And you go to other communities, go in the Jewish communities in Williamsburg, whatever, you just can't go in there and do anything. But in our communities, we let people bring drugs, we let them bring guns, we let them bring all kinds of negative culture and behavior because we are not exclusive enough. So we have to maintain the right balance between exclusivity and inclusivity.
All right, Dr. Johnson, jump right in. This is War Cry, and we're going to give you those hard answers to those hard questions. Wait a minute, I got another question, Dr. Johnson. It says, I see black people losing their birthrights all around the world. Other people secure power, i.e., in the Caribbean, in Africa, but our people seem to have interest in something else. We will end up owning nothing nowhere. I guess what they're trying to say is that we're losing our birthrights. We don't try to obtain wealth. We don't try to get power through knowledge or information or work together as a team. For an example, I went to bid on a property in Brooklyn, and I was there. I had black people all around me. The Jews came in one at a time. But when the bidding started, guess what they did, Ulysses? They gathered together. Now, Dr. Johnson, they didn't know each other. Bishop, they didn't know each other. They was over, some of them was orthodox, some of them was liberal, some of them was conservative. But when the bidding took place, they came together. And we didn't. I mean, we couldn't even get the brownstone because they outbidded us because they know how to come together as a community. Dr. Johnson, what do you have to say about that?
Well, unfortunately, we are guilty of being a separate people within a people. And we are guilty of not taking the chance and the privilege of being a together people. And this is part of the slave mentality that still dwells among us. And it's a shame to say that, but it's the truth. And I think we're getting better at that. We're beginning to see the light, and we're seeing others on how they are coming together. The biggest fear of the white supremacists is seeing black people come together and work as a one unit. Once we come together and stop being scattered, and once we get rid of that selfishness attitude to say, well, I just about me, for me to get mine. But it has to come together. We got to get that village mentality back, where we come together to work as a people. So that question is a very fair question, and I agree, and it should be assimilated amongst our people. As we come together, there's a strength that can never be broken. But we got to realize it, and then once we realize it, we got to act on it.
Absolutely. And that's what another comment came in. We're not unified. Black people are all connected by this. We all face the same problems. Because when someone looks at us, before we open our mouths and they can make a determination where we come from, they see color. And once they see color, they put you in a box. Ulysses, how you feel about that? And then we're going to the video because that's going to tell us a little bit about Ulysses and the movement, and he's going to explain it to us. This is War Cry. But Ulysses, what do you think about what I just said?
I really appreciate the comments that are coming in, and I think going back to the issue of power, power begins with identity. You gotta know your identity in order to establish power. You got to be strong in your identity, and there's been a lot of work over centuries to leave us in a perpetual identity crisis of us asking, who are we? What do we want? So we're always trying to be like somebody else. I love what the brother said about exclusivity and inclusivity, because there's some places that just simply need to be ours, and that's that. I think we drive some of the best ideas in the world. We're always giving up the power. We're always giving up the ideas. We're always so willing to share. And we need to figure out how to get ours and hold ours and negotiate around what we're going to share, as opposed to always giving things away so freely.
And we need to feel a sense of connectivity together. We're all connected together. We feel isolated one to another, but we're all connected together. And that's one of the things I think we look at each of us as being separate when all of us have the same similar problems together. And you got to admit, there are some haves and some have-nots. There's people who have deserted us, people who've turned their back. That was this color. That was this color, Dr. Johnson. And it wasn't all white people. It was some of our own that turned their back on us, Ulysses. So, Bishop, so you got to know that too. Some sons, some daughters, we left some people behind. And what do we say? I got mine. They better get what? Theirs. And we got to face those hard facts. Everybody that's the skin color we are not kin to us. And some of us within ourselves are traitors. So we've got to look at things like that and bring people in our circle that have the same ideas. I got another question we're going on. They rely upon us to be disconnected. Absolutely. Absolutely. They want us to be disunified. They want us to fight. They want gang violence. That's why they build more jails before they even have people to put in it. They want this in the Black community, but we've got to come together to do better. This is War Cry. We're broadcasting from New York. We're talking about Juneteenth and who we are. Now we're going to the second half of the segment. Engineer, put on the video because we're going into the conversation.
What would you say to your brother if you had an opportunity to speak to your brother?
Why did you confess? What made you confess? What did they promise you?
What did they do to him?
Did they tell you they were going to kill my mother? Were they hiding to save a white man? Who knows?
I want people to, the people who will make a decision, particularly about this courthouse naming, to know that there are people who are vigilant and paying attention to what's going on. Today is June the 8th, the day that he was electrocuted, and July 23rd is his birthday. So his birthday is about 6 weeks away. I want people to know that we are not going to forget and that we're going to pursue this, but it's not just about the pursuit of his name on the courthouse, but it's also about remembering what happened to him. And so again, I'm inviting people, if anybody would like to speak into their thoughts around June 8th, 1931, 7:06, Alexander McClay Williams being led illegally, unjustly to a chair, being strapped in. And it said that he was strapped in at 7:01 and he was pronounced dead at 7:06 by himself, 16 years old, totally innocent. Any thoughts?
I'm sure he was like, man, I didn't even do anything. Like, what's happening? And really struggling with the fact that he's in trouble for doing absolutely nothing.
There's just nothing that gives me, no experiences that I have that get me even close to being able to imagine. There's in every element of my life, it seems like there has been recourse. Either a health problem or some trouble or some, whatever troubles I've come up against, there has been some recourse. But to be in a situation with absolutely no recourse, I'm pushing myself to try to imagine it, and I just can't get there.
I think he probably would have had some out-of-body experiences at moments, because you have to think about the surrounding at that time. Somebody said you did this horrific thing. So imagine the people that were yelling and screaming for him to die, and all he can think of is, what did I do wrong? With all of that yelling, you did this, die. People are literally telling him, I'm pretty sure we're telling him he should die, and he's like, why? So I think he probably had an out-of-body experience at moments of time, trying to figure out, why are these people yelling at me and I did nothing wrong?
Ulysses, I'm going to depart from your question. As a parent and as a grandfather, I'm with the thinking of what the parents were thinking, that they have taken my boy from me and about to end his life for something that he didn't do. The pain, confusion, disgust, rage, helplessness that his parents and his family was feeling, that the community was feeling. It wasn't just him and his thoughts, it became a community event. And I'm inside of that space of the community. Another man gone, another young boy's life taken away.
All right,
Anything
engineer,
else you
we
would say
gonna
to
cut it.
Alexander?
Let's go to
I
Ulysses.
love you, bro.
Let's go to Ulysses.
I wish I could have got to know you.
Let's go to Ulysses. Okay, Ulysses, fill us in. Tell us what's going on. Let's go.
Okay.
From the beginning.
So in 1931, this is 25 years before Emmett Till was executed in Money, Mississippi. This was 14 years before George Stinney was executed at the age of 14 in an electric chair in South Carolina. A boy named Alexander McClay Williams, 16 years old, is accused of stabbing a white woman more than 40 times and put in an electric chair in Pennsylvania. And He's electrocuted. He remains the youngest person in Pennsylvania history to be executed. In June 2022, he was exonerated in the same courtroom where he was said to have been guilty. And so, like I said earlier, a lot of people were so excited about the fact that he had been exonerated that to me it was embarrassing because he had been dead for 91 years. So, along with a group of people from around the country, we've taken up this fight to have Alexander McClay Williams' name put on a courthouse in Media, Pennsylvania. That courthouse currently bears the name of the man, the judge who sentenced him to death. We want Alexander McClay Williams' name on the courthouse where the name Frauenfeld now exists. His 92-year-old sister, who we just saw, has lived with this her entire life. And she, like many people, older people, have experienced so much tragedy that we want to see that happen before she goes on to her glory. We want her to see her brother's name on that courthouse. So we are in a very good position. We've had some very productive conversations with Delaware County Council. That is the group of people who will make the decision. And we're hoping that they will make that decision within the next month to put his name on that courthouse. We continue to look for help, people who just want to be part of this conversation. This is an international conversation as far as we are concerned. There's power in having a name on a courthouse. But again, kind of like Juneteenth, you got to teach to it. You can't just throw his name up there and not teach to it. You got to put his name up there and teach to why we are doing this. I need to add this because it's interesting that the courthouse that we are aiming to change is about a block from a hotel where the counterintelligence program was discovered back in 1971, March 8th, 1971. Right around the corner from this courthouse is a hotel where the COINTEL program, the counterintelligence program, was discovered. And for those who are not familiar with that, it is the program that the FBI instituted to make sure that essentially it could break down Black leadership all across the country, break down Black leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King, who spent time in this area, break them down, destroy them, discredit them. This is a holistic attack against the Black community. And so children like Alexander McClay Williams, Emmett Till, all the way up to Ahmaud Arbery and Trayvon Martin and Breonna Taylor, it's all the same history. It's all the same history. And we need to
let me interrupt you, Ulysses. Let me just come in for a minute. I want to ask you, was there any type of monetary restitution given to his family for this when he was exonerated?
No, and I think that that's part of the challenge as well, is that people want to say he was exonerated and no money was ever offered. Of course, money can't bring him back, but money does make a difference. So the short answer is no.
Okay, Dr. Johnson, when you seen this, how was you feeling when you seen this, his sister and this information? How do you think this young boy was feeling when he was being electrocuted? How? What could his parents experience? Dr. Johnson.
Well, when I watched it, it brought tears to my eyes, to be honest with you, and I felt her pain. And when you look at the tragic moment when she said, "Well, I wish you could have talked to me. Could I communicate with me? Somebody could told me what was going on." It was sad. You know, I looked at her and I thought about the late Mamie Till Mobley, the mother of Emmett Till, and I think about the mother of Trayvon Martin. You could see the pain when Breonna Taylor. I thought about that mother. Pain, the confusion, the exhaustion, and everybody wants to know why. And what is so devastating to many Black Americans, we have never been given an answer, but yet we know what it is. It is
absolutely
so sick, and this thing that we call America to have a sickness among white supremacists that is so entrenched in the soul of them. I look at them really, and I mean, a lot of people don't even like this. I don't even look at them as really being human, because they say that we are all of God's children. No, we are all God's creation. We ain't all God's children, because some of these things that's down here, something wrong with them. There's
Something wrong with it. Bishop Butler, you come on in and watch it, because your mic is live and you may have to mute after you speak. Bishop Butler, what do you think about this?
We serve different gods. Their God is a God of war, of violence, injustice, and they can serve him every Sunday and not feel guilty. So I have come to the conclusion that their God, starting from Constantine, is a different God than the God that we serve. Yes, well, they use the same book, but they see it through a different lens. And that family and those children all feel a sense of helplessness. Helplessness, and in many cases, we've turned to hopelessness, because seemingly there is no restitution, there's no satisfaction, and we have work to do. And I like to refer to the scriptures, Isaiah 41 and Isaiah 42:43 tells why what happened, talks about our identity, the chosen, the elect of God, and it tells what would happen to us if we did not keep God's commands. And we were living in that state now. There will only be a remnant, I must admit. God has made some promises.
Now, let me say something, Bishop Butler. Let me say something. You know me, you're going to go back and forth. This board did not do anything. I want to say that has nothing to do about him with the commandments, because these were evil white people that did this to him. Injustice, bias, prejudice. He was 14. So we should not even put him labelly in that box. We need justice for him. Period. Now you can preach to those other ones, but him, he did nothing.
I'm talking about the whole group of us. Now I'm not talking about an individual. The young man was in
them, not us. Don't put me in it. It's them. It's them that did it. We didn't kill our own black. We didn't execute that kid. We didn't execute him.
No, I'm not saying
them that did it.
I'm saying that our relationship to God created an environment whereby God's enemies and our enemies have been cause us to cry out back to God. Now, individuals are going to get that are innocent in the process will be their lives may be at stake and hurt and killed and what have you. I'm not saying that the individual was responsible, but as a group of people,
I understand.
Right, as a group of people, we turned our backs on God. The same God that delivered us from slavery. When we sang those, and I don't call us slaves, we were enslaved. Our natural state was a state of freedom. We were enslaved. And the reason we were enslaved is because we turned our backs on the commandments of God. But during that period of enslavement, many turned back to God, and God gave us deliverance. It took a time, 430 years, and we're still climbing. But now many have turned their backs on God again, unfortunately.
Okay.
So
Ulysses, we're going back to you. You know, me and Bishop Butler could go at it one-on-one, because I feel that now is the time that we do something that inside of that evilness that exists, it didn't exist so much for Alexander, because it was an evil man that sent him to jail for doing something that he shouldn't do. So continue. Me and Bishop Butler, we are friends, we are theologians, and him and Dr. Johnson, we will go at it all day. But back at you, what can we do? How is his family feeling? Does he have cousins and things that are in the fight with you? Where are you with the bill? Where are you?
Well, where we are right now with it is that when we asked for this courthouse name to be changed, there was no ordinance that even gave the council the power to make that change. So by asking for this change, we were able to get them to create an ordinance so that they can begin to make the change. So on this Wednesday, there will be a second reading of the proposed ordinance. And once that is passed, we are then in the position to get them to change the name of that court. This could be done within the next month. Okay. This could actually be done within the next month. And I believe that beyond the judge who sentenced him, there was an entire apparatus of white supremacy and neglect and racism. There was an entire apparatus that allowed him to be executed, murdered by the state of Pennsylvania. And we need an apparatus to defend. We need an apparatus to fight. We need an apparatus. And so I'm hoping that by bringing this to light across the world, that we can begin to develop an apparatus for things like this. We need people to be part of the cause that I'm setting up. We need people to spread the word about this. We need people to join this fight for the courthouse, because every time a child walks into that courthouse going forward, I want them to see the name of that boy on that courthouse and ask themselves, who is that boy? Why did they change the name of that? I want people all around the world asking, why in the world did they change the name of that courthouse and who was that boy? That becomes a conversation that helps us to guide our children into the future.
Now, what can we do to help you? What can we do to support you? Give us that information. We want to be a part of it.
Like I said, I will make available to you the information about the regular meetings. We're going to have another gathering this Thursday, online gathering this Thursday, to talk about this matter. And we need people having a conversation. We need people to get informed about this, because 1931 frames what happens to so many children in the following years. It was because they were able to do that to him in 1931 that it continues to happen right up through, again, Ahmaud Arbery and anybody else. So we need people to be part of the conversation. So the way that people can help is getting informed about Alexander McClay Williams and what happened to him, and then being part of our conversations and then spreading the word. We got to spread the word in order for people to know that this is going on. That's how people can help.
Now, we have a lot of listeners, so I need for you to get that across the air so the engineers can put it up on the screen. So everybody, you're going to give it to me, but I can only cover so many. I want everybody to be on that line on Thursday, because we've got to stop the violence.
Okay,
go ahead.
So what I'm asking people to do who want to know is to send me an email. My name, Ulysses, Ulyses, Butch, Butch, Slaughter, Slaughther, Ulysses Butch Slaughter at gmail.com. Shoot me an email and I will send you the information that will include people from all around the country who will be talking about this on Thursday. And we want to keep seeding this idea as far and wide as possible, because we can go back and we can remember Alexander, but we're going to have to do something about it going forward. And so if you can be part of that, if you can get your group to be part of that conversation, then we can spread the word. And we want to eventually, we need to be preventing this type of stuff. It ain't just about talking about the past. We need to prevent this stuff. So be part of the call, spread the information, and let's figure out how we can prevent this stuff going forward.
Is there going to be a vote?
What time on Thursday? I'm sorry, Bishop. Go ahead, Bishop. Wait, let me just ask you, what time on Thursday?
7 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay,
Is there
Bishop, that's you.
Is there going to ever be a vote regarding this issue?
Yes.
And if so, can we bring a busload of people from New York?
Well, you know what? That would sound amazing. And so after this Thursday, when they pass the ordinance to make the name change, it would be amazing, Bishop, if we could begin to rally like that around the courthouse. You and I should talk and figure out, because maybe there are other people that want to come from other places. And if we need to converge on media in Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia, if we need to do that, let's do it. But if we can get people to show up virtually, we'll start there. We got different approaches that we can take to this. More people can probably hop on a Zoom call than get on a bus. But you know what's going to be amazing is if that bus showed up the day they put that boy's name on that courthouse. That needs
Look,
to
I'm going
be
to show up.
site.
I want to be there. I'm going to show up. Dr. Gregory Johnson, you have something you want to go into the conversation?
Well, Dr. Ulysses, my prayers are with you, and I am seriously I'm going to be behind you in prayer. I can't be there physically, but I see that I believe that what your agenda is spiritual, and it is necessary. They asked us, why don't we get together? Well, here we got an opportunity to get together. Here we go. This is what we can put up and shut up. We had this opportunity to show that we can get together. Listen, the only thing our enemy understands is power. That's the only thing he understands. And when he sees us get together in unity, they get very nervous. And that's true history. So when many people show up at this courthouse and they see these folks coming from everywhere, listen, that's what's going to make the difference. Now, they're not worried about words. They're not moved by words. And especially when you just made known that the place where COINTELPRO was discovered right around the courthouse, that place there, that's some history. White folks don't want that to get out. They don't. When you made that statement, I know they listening, the white supremacists got very nervous. Because that's a history that J. Edgar Hoover wanted to exterminate. And it was no more of an embarrassing situation as when COINTELPRO was broke, when that really showed what white America was doing to destroy black people America. It didn't get no more plainer than that. So this is a time for us to show up and shut up.
Absolutely. And this is a time for us not to just show up with words, but we want to show up by supporting financially as well. This is War Cry, and we are behind you. New York is behind you, and we're going to move forward with this. And as we do before we end our show, one word would you like to leave? What one word would you like to leave our listeners with? Starting with you, Bishop, only one word. We can't hear you. You're on mute. One word.
Empowerment.
Empowerment. Thank you. One word, Dr. Johnson.
History.
History. One word, Ulysses.
Justice.
One word for me, unity and connectivity. This is War Cry. We're going to be back with you next week. Expect the unexpected with War Cry. We are an urban Christian radio station, and guess what? We want to make you angry. That's the whole purpose, because if you get angry, you do something, and we want you to get out of your seats and do something, period. All right, engineer, let's come with our last video. This is War Cry. We're on the wall crying out for our children, our communities, our schools, our churches, our families. This is War Cry. Welcome to our reality. Gun violence, Chicago, Philly, Detroit, New York, Atlanta, just to name a few. Our black children are dying day by day. This is War Cry. Police brutality. Hands up! Don't move. I can't breathe. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag All Lives Matter to Christ. This is War Cry. Drugs, rape, mass shootings, school violence. This is War Cry, galvanizing people to pray for our children and to take action. Let's march on Washington. We want prayer back in you. This is War Cry. Candles, memorials in every corner in our neighborhood. Who died this weekend? Oh no, not Miss Martha's grandson. This is War Cry. He was only 16. His brother died last year. He was only 13. This is War Cry. We the people. We're the elected officials. This is War Cry. We need the church. Where's the church? Only on Sundays. Get to the streets, church. We need you out there. This is War Cry. Girl, be gone. Boy, be gone. Mothers crying. Fathers being locked up. Welcome to our reality. Identity crisis. This is War Cry. Oh, they're trying to remove our history off the textbook. Oh, critical race theory? It makes them feel bad. It's our reality. Fake reality shows. We want the real truth. Stay woke. This is War Cry. HBCUs under attack. This is War Cry. Equal pay for what we do. We want a reparation. This is War Cry. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Wait a minute. Is that somebody else they're burying that looks like us? Only 12. This is War Cry. Let us come together and pray for our young people, pray for our communities, pray for our schools, pray for our churches, pray that the government gives us what we need, a fair opportunity. This is War Cry, home of the land, home of the brave, land of the free. Who's free? Our men are locked up. This is War Cry. Hashtag mothers against gang violence. Hashtag fathers who love their sons. Hashtag what would Jesus do? This is War Cry.
I know who goes before me.